Sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. I want to thank both of my guests today, Damian Morton and Coach Dennis Ward, as we have a lot to discuss right now. We heard about the trade yesterday where the Carolina Panthers sent quarterback Teddy Bridgewater to the Denver Broncos. Now, with that said, Carolina is going to be picking up $7 million of Bridgewater's $10 million on his contract, while Denver will pick up the other $3 million, and then Carolina is getting a 6th-round pick in return. Now, I look at this from two different scenarios, and I want to get both of your views on this. Number one, you're looking at a guy like Bridgewater. To me, I think Bridgewater has the tools to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. Maybe not a great quarterback, but a successful quarterback. But this guy keeps getting passed around. And I mean, I'm looking at it at a scenario now. He's going to a situation with Denver where you're going to have Pat Shurmur running things on offense. They worked briefly together in Minnesota. Of course, during the bulk of that time, Bridgewater was injured. I'm looking at it, why can't Bridgewater stick with the team? And then from Denver's aspect, you're talking about John Elway running that front office up there. And, you know, a lot of these young cats nowadays, they don't understand how good John Elway was in his prime. I mean, one of the strongest arms ever, very athletic, big and mobile for a quarterback, a proven winner. But, you know, with that said, John Elway just has not been able to get it done, you know, from drafting and developing quarterbacks. You think about Paxton Lynch. We think about Drew Lock. Most recently, we also think about Brock Osweiler. It just hasn't worked out. So I just want to get your thoughts. What's going on with that?
I think I would say, well, first of all, John Elway has what's going for him in his prime, as a lot of the quarterbacks or football players that have the baseball involved in their life. So that was his thing, you know, he had the baseball. So, of course, that's a strong arm. But I'm going to go ahead and just step out and just say for Bridgewater, he took a major injury. So that's always going to be the scariest thing with picking up a quarterback like him. He could be a mobile quarterback. I mean, he's no Warren Moon. He can't sit back there and chuck it. But, you know, he knows how to get out the way and get things done. But at the same time, it's like, he's a big hit away from, you know, at any time getting re-injured. And that's how anybody who picks him up is going to look at it. And then somehow he just turned into, I don't mean to say it like this because he is a decent quarterback, but he's a game manager, you know, and that's, you know, for the most part, that's what it's going to be. But I think in the right situation, he can excel. And this might be an all right situation for him in Denver. But John Elway, you know, I think maybe in his mind, because, you know, he won his Super Bowls real late in life, even though he's been plenty of times, his defense kept it together, you know, because he had all the tools on offense where, you know, if you would have messed that up being a game manager, then shame on you. He didn't have to have the strong arm. He had 2 great wide receivers, one of the greatest tight ends. Your offensive line was monsters, even though they were probably the lightest offensive line. They could just move and groove, and then your running back. You had plenty of running backs that could get it done. So I don't know, maybe he's just settled on that because even when he pulled over Peyton Manning, it was defense. So, but also that's a guy in the right situation, and he had a couple of guys there that he could throw to, just be a game manager. You know what I'm saying? And when he came back, when he stepped back into the game after, what was it, a suspension? Not a suspension. Was he injured, or they pulled him from the game one time and left him out? But I remember Peyton came back like maybe a game week later, and, you know, showed his butt off, and they got into the playoffs and, you know, won that Super Bowl. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways it could go. I just hope, you know, Teddy Bridgewater actually gets a chance to develop somewhere and actually get going. He had a couple of good years in Minnesota, but at the end of the day, he just turned into a game manager that could be injured.
D, what's your take, brother?
Well, Teddy Bridgewater, man, I mean, it's going to be hard to see that they are looking to really build around Teddy Bridgewater in Denver. They are looking, remember, that's a place where it gets cold, it's windy, and you can't have a quarterback that can't have an arm that can cut through the bad elements. You know, you play a game there in December, it could be any, you know, it could be any type of weather. which is why he ended up with a dome team to begin with. And, he had success with another dome team in New Orleans. You have to take all of these things into consideration. I believe he's there to make way for whoever they're bringing in. I don't know what they're going to do in the draft. They're probably going to be looking to see who falls to them at that 9 spot. But as far as Teddy Bridgewater is concerned, he's there to make way for whatever's going on next. That's just my view of it. I'm not even putting too much of any stake in it. I mean, maybe they'll bring him in, let him start the first couple of games, and basically, as my man mentioned, manage the game. Don't lose it. Don't make the big mistake. Make the throws you're supposed to make the reads you're supposed to make. Don't get fooled by the coverage. These are things he's going to do well as a veteran quarterback. But the
good point.
The facts of the matter still are going to remain that is Denver. It is cold in Denver in December and November. The wind is blowing. You have to be able to throw the football through. He's going to have 2 gloves on, man. That's my man Teddy 2 Gloves, man. My favorite nickname. But I just don't know. I don't know how that works, man.
You know what? It's hard to breathe there, too.
Right. I'm a Raider fan. I hope they keep him in there because I'm not scared of Teddy 2 Gloves, man.
Yeah,
I like that.
You look at Denver's quarterback situation over about the last 40 years, and the guys to me who had the most success there, John Elway, of course, and Jay Cutler, and of course, I really think that Pat Bowlen at that time, he did Jay Cutler a disservice by firing Mike Shanahan, and of course Josh McDaniels came in and really just tried to ruin everything. But the bottom line is, you need that strong arm quarterback out there in Denver, to your point, Dennis, because it bites out there in the Rocky Mountains. I've been out there, not to Denver per se, but I've been in that mountain region out there, and it gets cold. And it's a situation, the air is already thin up there, but you need that quarterback, who can thread the needle, so to speak. And I think about, because I follow a lot of the New York Giants, and I think about the Giants typically when they've had their success over the years, they make sure that they get themselves a strong arm quarterback to deal with that wind at the Meadowlands. Phil Simms was one guy that comes to mind from the 80s. Of course, Eli Manning, and then, sandwich in between there, you had Kerry Collins. So when you draft a quarterback, or you make that trade for a quarterback, or you get somebody in free agency, you got to think about, the elements of where you play. And it's a situation for me with Bridgewater, it just doesn't fit. And I really thought, a couple of years ago, it was going to be a marriage made in heaven when, he went to New Orleans, because for me, it just didn't make sense with what the Jets did. They had him in preseason that year. That was right after he, finished up with the Vikings. And, it looked like, okay, hey, the Jets might have something. And then the Jets did jet moves. And, next thing you know, Bridgewater's traded to the Saints. And I figured, okay, this is going to be the segue from Drew Brees, to, the next starting quarterback for the Saints, because, Bridgewater's not a bad quarterback. He's not going to be out there and make people think that he's Achilles Smith. No, Bridgewater can actually play. I agree with you, Damian. That injury, really set him back, because he was having something, and, he just has not gotten that same rhythm back. We saw flashes last year at Carolina, but you got a new head coach in Matt Rule. Carolina was very young last year. Christian McCaffrey was injured, so that really took away from what they could do. Carolina really did not have an identity on the defensive side of the ball. Matt Rule is not known as a defensive coach. You're going to be playing for a defensive coach right now, and Denver or Vic Fangio. He's going to get things worked out, but at the same time, Von Miller's a lot older. Bradley Chubb has been unable to stay healthy. So, what can you do there? But at the same time, if you're John Elway, to me, I just think it sends the wrong message, because you've taken 3 quarterbacks early in the draft in the last 10 years. And two of those guys are first round picks. Paxton Lynch, I don't even think he's in the NFL anymore. And Drew Lock.
No, he got paid and he left.
Drew Lock did show some flashes last year, but you're hearing stuff like, okay, maybe they're ready to give up on him as well. And it's just like, I think that at some point that luster from that championship team that the Broncos had a couple of years ago is going to wear off, because let's be realistic. He did it with a washed up Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was literally on his last leg. And, and the thing was, it was like, yo, that D, especially in that Super Bowl win over Carolina, that D set the tone on the first drive when Von Miller sacked Cam Newton. And, of course, they just pinned their ears back, and that was it. But, John Elway does not get enough flack for being able to go out there and develop quarterbacks.
No, not at all. I think, first of all, they need to switch the defense. That defense it's doing all right, but it's not the defense that they had. But they got some studs in the secondary, and they got some studs at linebacker and on the defensive line. But that really needs to be a 4-3 team. You need to put Bradley and Vaughn in the dirt. Put their hands in the dirt and just let them go get the quarterback all game long. Apply pressure, get those easy interceptions, and do what you got to do. Because that's the type of defense where, my Bucks were running a cover 2. That was the thing. That's what kept us in the game. We would get turnovers, fumbles, picks, and then we just game managed. There was a lot of seasons like that for us where we game managed ourselves to the playoffs. We had the Trent Dilfers and Sean Kings and stuff. Not that they were seriously bad quarterbacks, but they were game managers, and we might have, 1 or 2 running backs that can get us in. And it's just like, look, if you're not going to spend the money on offense, make sure your defense is just thrashers. Make sure they cause turnovers, even trying to score. Make sure your special teams is on. But that's another thing they haven't focused on in a couple of years. What's up with their special teams? You guys haven't had a great kicker in a while, and where's your return man? So, it's not just they can't get the quarterback right. They're just not developing the other areas that you need to keep the game going.
Well, let's play a game, fellas. And I looked this up before because when he was available, a lot of Raider fans were saying, "Oh, get Teddy Bridgewater, bring him in." And I just said, let me look at his stats because I knew they weren't great. Do y'all realize he's never thrown more than 15 touchdown passes in any one season?
Did not know that stat. That's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not one time did he get past. He had 15 touchdowns and 11 interceptions last year in Carolina.
That was in 15 starts.
Even those years that you call good years in Minnesota, he threw 14. But he had Adrian Peterson at that time, so, whatever.
Right.
But still, 14 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns. This guy he's not here to save your franchise. Let's just be honest. We all like him. I love his story. I love his comeback. I love everything about Teddy Bridgewater. He's not it. They are drafting somebody to be it. Drew Lock is not it either. I mean, you want to blame John Elway? I don't know if you can blame him because look what he did. He went and got, he got Drew Lock, and then he went and drafted every receiver there was in the draft the year before. He took Judy, then he took Hamlin in the second round. The year before, he took Noah Fant in the first round. He's trying. He's just throwing draft picks at it. But like I told you before in the other podcast, he might have been better served shooting his shot at a vet like Matt Stafford. You got a draft pick in the top 10. He's going to be able to play. He's got the arm to play in Denver. Why not give up the draft pick and get? They would have gladly took that pick probably over Jared Goff.
Come on now.
And Jared Goff's contract. Let's not mention how much money they had to pay Jared Goff. I mean, this is me. We're couch GMs here, man. None of us get paid to do this, but sure as hell sounds good, right? Sounds real good. I don't know. I like the sound, but
well, I mean, I'll say this because I do know that Denver was intrigued as far as potentially acquiring Sam Darnold from the Jets. John Elway did like him. Another West Coast quarterback coming out of SC. But I think the Jets were a little trigger shy to make that deal with Denver due to the fact that he's going to stay within the AFC. I do agree with you on that standpoint. I think John Elway, he's good at putting and finding talent at every other position, with the exception of quarterback. Because if you go back and look at that championship team that Denver had a couple of years ago, basically, they were stacked on that defensive side of the ball. You had a guy like Von Miller up front, Malik Jackson. You had Chris Harris and Aqib Talib, just to name, a few of the playmakers and headhunters that they had coming out of that secondary. And, it's funny because over the years, when we think about the Denver Broncos, we think about their offense. But over the years, man, whether it was that orange crush or that blue crush, Denver always brought it on D. You think back to the 70s, Tom Jackson, Randy Gradishar, Louis Wright, just to name a few.
Right.
In the 80s, when they were getting to the Super Bowls, Carl Mecklenburg's, Rulon Jones, Dennis Smith, Steve Atwater. And, of course, it continued into the 90s when they finally won. They picked up Neil Smith from Kansas City. You still had Steve Atwater on that D. Al Wilson, coming out of the University of Tennessee.
Right.
Bill Romanowski. Yeah, so it's like they always, they always had it. So John can find those guys. It's a situation right now, just like it was with Julius Peppers, just like it is now with J.J. Watt. Von Miller can't take over the game like he did 5 or 6 years ago because the wear and tear of playing. He's had several injuries. He can still be effective, but you know what? You still need more players around him. I think John Elway tried to realize that, and he went and got Bradley Chubb, but then Bradley Chubb, got injured as well. So that really changes things. I do agree with you. KJ Hamler is that dude. He has the potential to be that dude, rather, at the wide receiver position for the Denver Broncos. They picked up Melvin Gordon from the San Diego Chargers. You let Philip Lindsay go, but you know what? You gotta find that guy at quarterback. And I did a podcast a couple of months ago before this free agency started in the NFL, and I said it, and it is not proving me wrong. We were going to see a lot, and I mean a lot, of shuffling at the quarterback position, and it is still going on right now. And with that said, John Elway still, with all of that said, he hasn't found his guy. Matt Stafford has the fastball to get it done in Denver, but you know what? He's going to be on the climate control field at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. You look at a lot of these somewhat finesse quarterbacks that are around there. I think Sam Darnold would have been better served in Denver than Teddy Bridgewater. But again, I really feel like maybe the Jets were a little shy from trading Darnold within the AFC, because if you want to try to get to the playoffs, you got to go through this guy. But make no mistake about it, man. Denver under Elway has failed consistently to find that guy at the quarterback position. I mean, just think about it. What if Peyton Manning in 2012 had decided, you know what, I'm going to Miami because the Dolphins were after him? Or what if in 2012 Peyton Manning decided, you know what, I'm going to Tennessee? He played his college ball down there, and there were a lot of people that really wanted to see him come home. What would John Elway's legacy, as the executive VP of football operations be right now? Because, I mean, every time you turn around, he's getting a new starting quarterback, and he's also getting a new head coach because he gives up on these guys so quick. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Peyton Manning, just like he was in Indy, he was able to mask a lot of problems. Peyton Manning has did mask, some of John Elway's issues at the quarterback position, and now the chickens are coming home to roost.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking, okay, guys, let's say this. You got a couple of picks. You have, 10 to 12 teams of quarterbacks you can trade for. Who you really putting in that spot?
Dennis, I'll let you go first, man.
Well, if they got a chance to get their hands on Justin Fields, that's the guy they need to go after. And you draft a quarterback because you can control him longer, and you have to pay him less. That's why all of these teams are jockeying to draft these young quarterbacks. They can keep them for 5 years, and they don't have to pay them top-tier money yet.
Right.
Now, if they develop, great, but you still got to pay them. Now, that's why everybody wants one. So, I mean, like I said, remember, Drew Lock was a second-round pick, so I think they got to pay him this year. They have to decide whether they're going to pay him this year and not the year after, because he wasn't a first-round pick. So they are at another crossroads. This is happening all over again. To talk about the defense, Von Miller got hurt. Bradley Chubb got hurt. They got rid of Chris Harris Jr. It's not the same defense. They can't stop the run, really. Justin Simmons is great, though. That guy can play. He's really, really good.
Boom, boom.
Oh, my God. That guy's great. They're paying him a lot of money. Well, he's like one of the highest paid safeties in the league now.
As he should
be.
So
is that the best place to spend your money, though, then? You didn't make the playoffs. KJ Hamler, I like him, but the guy that's going to be on that team is Sutton, Cortland Sutton. He got hurt. He's the one that's going to make the plays. Judy's going to fill in the blanks, but Cortland Sutton is going to be the guy. If they get a quarterback that can make plays, he's going to be that guy, being the engine of that offense. He's going to start it off. He's going to get everything in gear, and he's going to be the one, I think, to really move the needle. He was hurt last year, and I don't know, man. They have to get somebody. And for me, for my money, they better get Justin Fields if he slides, because now this Trey Lance is getting pushed up. That'll make him the third quarterback. Then you still have Mac Jones. I don't know how much they like Mac Jones, but if Mac Jones is sitting there, they better get him. They better get somebody that can do something.
Right. What about you, Will? You got a couple picks. What are you doing?
Well, first of all, I don't think Mac Jones is the answer there. And I think, we talked about this before. It's a situation where I really think the 49ers are reaching to take Mac Jones where they are. But you look at it right now, you're hearing rumors that the 49ers are on the verge of trading Jimmy Garoppolo back to the New England Patriots. So with that said, New England's picking at number 15, and there's a lot of people out there who feel that the Patriots were going to be in the market to take either Justin Fields or Trey Lance. So if you're Denver at number 9 and you really feel like, you need a quarterback, well, guess what? That just made your job a lot easier, because that's probably one less team that you have to worry about now potentially trading up in front of you. Albeit I really didn't see New England making that move as far as moving up that much into the top 10 per se to get that quarterback. So I think Denver can sleep a little bit comfortably if you're John Elway now, knowing that at number 9 you got a legit shot to get you a signal caller if that's the case. We know the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks. But you look at picks 4 through 8, most of those teams are contented quarterback. Detroit at number 7, for an example, they just made the trade to get Jared Goff from the Rams. They're not taking a quarterback. Carolina at number 8, they just made the trade with the Jets to get Sam Darnold. They darn sure aren't making a quarterback. Cincinnati, they need to protect Joe Burrow. So that's probably going to be an offensive line pick, or maybe a tight end or a wide receiver right there. Excuse me. Miami at number 6. They're probably going to take a skill position player for Tua to get the ball to. And definitely then you have the Atlanta Falcons. They look like they're committed to Matt Ryan long term. So offensive line help, or maybe another wide receiver or Kyle Pitts to offset Julio Jones. So unless
there's talks about trading Julio now.
Yeah, and honestly, I think at the end of the day, they're just putting out feelers just to see what they can potentially get for him.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? But for me, because again, Julio's coming off the injury. So a toe injury is turf toe. A lot of people don't understand. If you have never competed, turf toe is not a fun injury. I've had it before. It's not fun. It cut short Jack Lambert's Hall of Fame career linebacker. So that just lets you know how real it is. So, I really don't see how much Atlanta could get for Julio at this point in the game. But I just think they were blowing smoke. But with that said, getting back on the subject, I look at Denver at number 9. If they really do want a quarterback, and if they are in love with one of these guys, they need to go out there and make it happen. Trey Lance, he played indoors at North Dakota State. So, to your point, Dennis, earlier, is he going to have the arm strength to get it done in Denver? Justin Fields,
he does. He's got plenty of arm.
And, Justin Fields as well, playing in Columbus, can he get it done as well? So we'll have to wait and see. But, my biggest thing is with Denver, even if Denver takes a quarterback early on, I'm not sold on it because of John Elway's track record. Vic Fangio is a defensive-minded coach. And then you have Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur, to me, is okay as an offensive coordinator. He looked pretty good with Kirk Cousins that year in Minnesota. But again, we saw what he did, in the early stages of Daniel Jones's career with the New York Giants. Daniel Jones is a guy who I'm not sold on anyway. So with that said, what can Pat Shurmur do with a young quarterback, whether it be Justin Fields or Trey Lance, just to throw those names out there as an example? I'm not ready to bet the farm on that with this quarterback situation with Denver, which again falls back into the lap of John Elway.
You know what? I think in a situation, Pat Shurmur, look, like the year he did good with Kirk, they had weapons. And in New York, they had the running back. and
Saquon,
Saquon, and he's catching like 50 balls out of the backfield. That's like, half of his throws for the season. So I think in this situation, they got the young talent. They probably need to get a tight end for him so they can develop the short game real quick. But it's like whoever they pick up, they got to make sure he has plenty enough weapons, period. It's not going to be about you can develop him. You can't develop him without good targets. They need to trade for maybe like Cameron Brate, from my team. We got 3 tight ends that could be Pro Bowl. OJ's coming off the injury, but go get Cameron Brate. Just get him somebody veteran that can help him out, and whoever that quarterback may be. I think they can get Trey Lance. I think he might just be there for him, considering how it's going to go, because someone's going to pick up Kyle Pitts early. Someone's going to pick up, what's the big boy, the offensive tackle?
Sewell.
Yeah. Someone's going to get him right away. So, it's going to, number 9 is going to come real quick, and that, everybody's not going to be there. Then there's 2 wide receivers that everybody's going to want too. So it's like, I see Detroit getting one of those wide receivers that's going to push it back 8, then 9. There's going to be a quarterback there that you can take. Just give him the weapons. That's really what it is.
Well, William, I want to say, going back to the Patriots, let's not rule anything out. They've been extremely uncharacteristic this offseason, spending money on wide receivers, things you've never seen them do. Years ago, they would only spend money on cornerbacks and offensive linemen. Everybody else was disposable.
Facts.
Every year they would pay somebody to play corner, and every year they would pay their offensive lineman. And everybody else would be disposable. Now they paid Nelson Aguilar and this one. And I'm like, wait, this isn't Bill Belichick. Is he getting senile in his old age? But this looks weird. I wouldn't rule out anything. I wouldn't rule out them trading up for a quarterback, any of these things. You can't rule any. The Patriots are completely unpredictable nowadays. Before, and he's been missing on those draft picks at the end of round 1. Missed on the kid, N'Keal Harry. Missed on that lineman.
Yeah.
They had to get Trent Brown back from us. They're not. They haven't been making the best decisions, doing it what you would call the Patriot way. So we're going to see something different from them. Whatever's going on there, it's not the run-of-the-mill Patriots, regular stuff. This is going to be something else.
What kind of package do they have, though? What kind of package can they offer? They didn't sign everybody.
I mean, they still have money left over there. They can do something. They can do something over there. Trust me. They have resources. And they're not paying a quarterback a lot of money. Think about it.
Thanks.
So,
yeah, I mean,
they had 8 or 9 opt-outs for COVID last year. So they're in a strange spot, man. They could get a lot better really quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And, I'm really intrigued, about Denver right now, because I saw that trade right there today or yesterday rather. And it was just something that, it just really just popped out at me and just caught my eye, where I was like, man, Teddy Bridgewater's on the move again. I feel like this guy can contribute to a team, but you know what? He's just bouncing around. And I mean, we saw him in Minnesota, and of course that injury just changed things right there. And then, I really thought, he was going to, do something with the Jets. And, it just ain't work out with the Jets. And then, on top of that, I really thought New Orleans was a place. And, Dennis,
you too.
You were attributed to it. Perfect scenario. You're indoors. You're playing with Sean Payton. Sean Payton is focused on running the football. The Saints have a D as well. And I think really Bridgewater showed enough for me, at that point when Drew Brees got injured in 2019. And I figured, okay, boom, we got something right here. And, I really think he was waiting around to see whether or not Drew Brees was going to retire after 2019. And when it looked like Drew Brees was ready to come back, even before it became official, Teddy Bridgewater, he was already linked to possibly going to the Bears. And then ultimately it was Carolina. So I'm just looking at it right now. I think that had he had just been patient, a little bit more patient in New Orleans, he could have been what Jameis Winston could potentially be now down there in the bayou with the Saints. Sometimes, you know what, the grass is not always greener, and I think Bridgewater is going to find that out. I think he found it out last year in Carolina, but I think he's really going to find it out this time around in Denver. And, you know, one thing we've seen in the NFL, when you have 2 or 3 quarterbacks on your roster and you can't figure out who the guy is, you really don't have a quarterback. That is one position that you cannot flip-flop on. And, you know, with Denver right now, they, you know, it's kind of like playing spades. You got 2 possibles right there, but you need to go, you know, you need to have something that you can figure out, you know what, we're going Boston or something like that, or, you know, we're going 10. If you got the top 5, you know, in your deck right now. The Broncos don't have that. And I keep saying, man, John Elway just can't get it done at the QB position. That's what's hurting him.
That's crazy, too, that you bring up the Saints scenario, because I thought Teddy was going to stay there and he was, you know, that was going to be it, you know. But then they, what's the quarterback that plays tight end and wide receiver for him right now?
Taysom Hill.
Okay, so he's enlisted in a quarterback training outside of off season so that he can get better, and he thinks he's going to compete with Jameis Winston. I think Winston's got it. You know what I mean? Obviously has the arm strength. But even if I'm Denver, I'm trying to get at least that kid. That kid can throw through the wind. He can throw through the mud, everything. That kid's got an arm. All you got to do is get him some solid weapons and spend some time with him and get him really developed. You know, he's past all the BS. I just think Florida was too much for him. But, you know, somewhere like Denver where you only can focus, you know, that I think that would be a good scenario too. Or maybe, you know, once they got Teddy, trade him over or whatever. But you know what? It's compared to seasons back in the 80s and 90s, the mid-season trades are crazy these days, you know?
Listen, it's a lot going on. And just to your point, I think that's one mistake to me I think that Elway has made as well. Most of his head coaching choices since he's been running things in Denver have been defensive-minded coaches. It was John Fox. I mean, he did, you know, catch lightning in a bottle with Gary Kubiak because, of course, Gary Kubiak was his backup for so many years with the Broncos. But then, you know, Vance Joseph, you know, Vic Fangio, a lot of these guys are defensive-minded head coaches. And if you're going to find yourself a young quarterback that you want to develop, you've got to go out there and find that guy, man. Because, I mean, think about it. Even going back to when Peyton Manning was the quarterback in Denver, Adam Gase was the quarterback's coach. And, of course, we saw Adam Gase become the head coach of the Dolphins and then, of course, the head coach of the Jets. And, I mean, listen, let's be realistic. None of us played in the NFL. I think all 3 of us could have been Peyton Manning's quarterback coach because, I mean, besides, you know, getting him coffee and parking his car in the morning, what could Adam Gase bring to the table that's going to make Peyton Manning a better quarterback?
How the hell did he get 2 head coaching jobs?
He's a good guy.
Yeah, keep going.
He's a good guy.
He does not seem like a good guy. I don't think he's nice at all.
He interviews well. That's all I can say because you figure every spot that he was at, you know, by the second year, he had a mutiny on his hands. He lost the locker room in Miami. You know, basically, I mean, the Jets just gave up before it even started. He was supposed to be there to help develop Sam Darnold. And, you know, Sam Darnold, you know, infamously was sitting on the sideline saying, I'm seeing ghosts. So I think the best thing that happened for Sam Darnold was like, you know what? You know, he got out of New York. He's going to Carolina. He's going to work with Matt Rule. But again, you know, getting back to Denver, they just can't get it done. And to me, at the end of the day, I know I give Elway credit for the other positions, but still not being able to find that quarterback that falls on him.
Hey, man, let's go back to Jameis Winston. And William, you know, we talk quarterbacks all the time. And I got a rule, man. If you turn the ball over in college, you're going to continue to turn the ball over in the NFL. Sam Darnold used to turn the ball over at USC. Jameis Winston turned the ball over at Florida State. And you just can't win with a quarterback that turns the ball over. Jameis Winston is not turning the ball over because he ain't been playing. The minute he gets out there, trust me, he's going to turn the ball over. Will it be 30 interceptions? Probably not. Sean Payton's offense is a lot different than Bruce Arians, but you are going to see. He's going to turn the ball over. I don't care how strong your arm is. If you throw it to the other team, can't win. Can't win, man. Can't win. Must protect the football. That is number one. Yeah,
man. And it's just like, I mean, I look at Denver right now. for me, I just see them and I'm just like, wow, it's a head scratcher because, Elway's one of the all-time greats. It's kind of like that Michael Jordan syndrome, with Charlotte,
Oh
great
man.
player, but, it just is not, transcended, to like winning. And that's the same thing for me with Elway with the quarterback position. I mean, this guy, and again, this younger generation, they don't understand, how great he was, for what he did for so many years while wearing the orange of the Broncos. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this. I was never a fan of like the Bridgewater going there. We've talked about that for so many different reasons, and I don't get a warm fuzzy spot in my tummy when I see Denver bringing in a quarterback under Elway. It just ain't working out, man.
I mean, that's it in a nutshell. We know. No, I don't think any of us feel good about that, and it's just that. Even like when my cousin Craig Morton played, they just had like a slew of guys coming in that could actually throw, and then all of a sudden, they never had that legacy again, just out of nowhere. Listen. Crazy.
I mean, listen, it's tough to explain, man. But Elway's got to get this right. And I think if it was anybody else that was running the front office there, things like you would be hearing a lot more rumblings about his job security. But it's John Elway, and I mean, listen, John Elway's God in Denver.
Period.
Listen, we can't dance around that fact. That dude brought 3 championships to Denver, 2 as a player, and 1 running their front office. And I mean, you figure, I know that Denver, they got blown out, several times when Dan Reeves was the head coach in the Super Bowl. I mean, granted, they played some great teams when they got there, but you figure John Elway was the face of that franchise for so long. And then, of course, Mike Shanahan, once Elway got, later on in his career, he adjusted things, worked on the offensive line, worked on the running game to really, develop his own blocking. But I mean, at this point in the game, man, John Elway, if it was anybody else, there would be rumblings for his job, man.
We all know he's not going anywhere, so they better figure it out another way.
Oh, definitely, man.
Point taken.
Definitely.
Point taken.
But fellas, we definitely covered a lot, on this subject. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what the Broncos do going forward. Because I mean, if you're a Broncos fan, it's definitely going to be frustrating. It has to be frustrating for you, to see, so much struggles over the years at the quarterback position when you were accustomed to seeing the exact opposite for so many years at the signal caller spot. Damian Morton, are there any projects that you're working on that you want to tell the folks out there about real quick, man?
Just, other channels that we got going right now. We got the 300 pounds, and then what's the other one? We got Sports Depot. There's a lot of things going on. Citywide Sports. That's just the sports side, but we got the whole sidebar and stuff like that. As far as music, there's always something being worked on, but right now our focus is just getting this season going. Definitely this 300 pounds is like delivering the stuff people are scared to touch on, and I like that we touch on the things that people aren't really focusing on. They just want to stay with the main news, but this was a great exposure of what Denver's going through, and people need to know that. Especially like my man Dennis is talking about. Well, I'm a Raiders fan. He can stay there. He can stay there. They can just keep falling down for all I care. See, and that's something he's studying. Like, get a crappy quarterback. I don't care. Get, what I mean? That keeps the Raiders up. And even with the Raiders, if I'm thinking if I need a crafty veteran, I would have got Marcus. I would have got Marcus. He's closer. He knows that team. He knows how the defense works, and he can give you some idea of what the other team's doing when we play him. So I don't know. The sports thing is just big right now, and I'm glad we're doing it.
Listen, I totally agree with you 100% on that one. And for anybody out there who doesn't know what Dennis is doing, you got to give people like their props. Dennis is out there. He's coaching the game for a lot of these youngsters, and he's not just a coach; he's a teacher. And and knowing Dennis for so long, playing like seeing him play point guard, basketball wise, he's bringing that fundamentals, to a lot of the youth nowadays, and being a teacher, and that's, to me, I've always felt there's a fine line from being a coach and being a teacher, because you can coach somebody, but you teach them how to take their respective games to the next level, and you also teach them life lessons. And I think that is something that Dennis definitely has to be commended on. He's definitely, very knowledgeable, in the sports aspect, in the sports realm from so many different aspects. But, we just got to take this time to definitely show you some love and give you the props that you deserve on that, man.
Yes,
wow,
sir.
brother, I appreciate that,
Yes,
man.
sir.
I appreciate that. I don't talk about what I do a lot. You happen to know because we just known each other for so long. So, people probably wonder, who the hell is this guy? What is he? How does he know anything? Who is he? What did he do? I mean, I could talk about it, but it's going to take a while. So I just keep my mouth shut. And, let what I say prove itself out, man. Just mark my word, man. These conversations are going to come back to us one way or another. Either we were right or we were wrong.
Now you had some
And it's
very
on
good
record on the
insight.
internet, man. Yeah, and it's right on the internet, man. But when my kids, grow up and they start getting drafted, man, trust me, man, I'm gonna talk bad about them too. Shoot, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Nah, listen.
No, we got a couple of kids. We got a kid at Rutgers right now, man. Hopefully, he has a good season this year, and hopefully, he does what he has to do. And then, next year draft, and maybe his name will come up. Maybe I'll have to mention him.
Hey, congrats, man, on all you doing over there. That's a tough thing, man. That's a tough balance.
Listen, man.
It's never going to be easy, man. Since 2003, I've been coaching kids, man. They need it, man. Everybody needs it.
Listen, Damian, like you said, man, we got a lot of projects going on. Dennis is doing his thing coaching wise. We got the stuff going on New York Underground Radio. You mentioned Citywide Sports on Space on Facebook. You also mentioned Sports Depot 365. I'm on Twitter, 300 Pounds of Sports as well. We putting in that work, man. So this is a great harmony. This is a great love right here. I'm happy, to be a part of this with both of you. Also at the same time, for anybody who checked this out, if you like what you hear, if you like what you saw, just click on that like button.
That's
Also,
it.
click on the subscribe button. The love and the support is definitely, very appreciated. We're going to keep coming at you. We're going to keep working, looking to get better at this day by day and improving. And we just thank everybody for the love. Big shout out to Damian Morton. Big shout out to Dennis Ward on this one. And, of course, myself, William Martin, a.k.a. 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Thanking all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And just thank you. And we're coming back at you live in full force, always direct. And this is how we do on the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge channel here on YouTube as we are signing off.
Good night, folks.
Good night.